This is the genuine Azure Prop. This company contacted me a couple months ago and they wanted to send me some props for review or testing. Finally, they got back to me and they sent me some. I really couldn't take this prop seriously. I would have bought some myself and tested them on my own, but I can't take it seriously because it looks the way it does. I mean, it looks broken, like right before you even take it out of the package, it already looks broken. But when I took a close look at the prop, I thought that it actually isn't that bad. It looks like it's somewhat pretty well engineered. And there's a couple things I want to point out to you that you might not notice immediately when you look at it. First and foremost, you got to look at the blade in two sections because it's got this weird shape to it. And when you do look at the blade in these two sections and you compare it to like a simple 5x4x3, you'll notice that the blade area in each individual section is not really any wider than a 5x4x3. So it's not going to be terribly inefficient. The only area that is a little wider is right here in the center. But if you chop off just the top, this little bit off the top of it, that is basically the width of a 5x4x3. So it should be pretty efficient. It shouldn't be terrible efficiency. Also, the blade pitch, I don't know what the pitch actually is, but it doesn't look super duper aggressive. And when I took a look at the curve of the blade, I thought even more that this is not a terrible blade. When you look at this curve, you see that the main aggressive part of the scoop is right in the middle of the prop. And that's a pretty good thing for this particular blade. I'll tell you why in a minute. But as you go out to the end, it thins out a lot. So what this means is that the throttle is going to be really soft in the low range. And then as you pick up RPMs, the center is going to take over and you're going to get a really big jolt of speed in the middle. But it's not going to be like a super duper turbo boost. It's going to thin out as you go up on the RPM because the center of the blade doesn't have a super huge scoop on it like a lot of recent props coming out, like the Gemfan 5152 or the Avan prop or the Racecraft 5051. So I'm expecting this prop to be pretty good about efficiency. It should have it's not going to have a linear throttle control. It's going to have like a very traditional throttle control. It's going to have a big burst of power somewhere in the middle of the throttle range, but the control should be pretty good because the blade area is rather wide. They also have a twin blade version. They're both also very, very light. The tri-blade is 4.5 grams, the twin blade is 3.8 grams, and they're calling this one the race blade and this one the freestyle blade. I mean, you could use either for either. I don't know, I'm impressed with the prop when I look at it in person. Of course, I don't think it's going to perform great. I think it's going to actually be slow, but it's not going to be a ridiculous prop in the air. I think if you like the prop, you wouldn't be wrong to like it because I think it will have a relatively distinct feel. The material of the prop is kind of a mix between a glass fiber material and a polycarbonate material. It is rather stiff. It's a pretty hard plastic. I don't think it's going to be very durable. I believe it'll probably hack through some branches easily, but it is not going to survive hitting a gate or crashing very much. It'll just crack in the middle somewhere somehow. But let's fly it and see how it is. I'm going to be flying it on the cow. So one thing to note is that this is a heavier quad. It's around 600 grams. So the props do respond a little differently, but I've gotten accustomed to this quad and I know how props feel on it now. So I should feel a lot of the same things. It might feel very similar to a 5x4x3 with very minor changes on this. On a lighter setup, you would probably feel a more drastic difference between props. Ready. I guess I do have to do that. When this company first contacted me to try their props, I didn't really take them seriously because their props just look crazy. After trying them firsthand, taking a look at them firsthand, I have to say that they're not the worst props. They're actually pretty good. They're not going to make it to like my list of top props that I'm going to use regularly, but I know that a lot of people like these props, and I looked at them funny until I tried them for myself. So there's a twin blade version and a tri-blade version. I don't know if I would use them for racing, particularly because they don't have the punch that I'm accustomed to for racing. I think that the basic 5x4x3 has more punch than these props, but these are unusually efficient. They have similar efficiency to the 5x4x3 and about the same speed too, unfortunately. The feel is just a little bit different. If you put it on a light quad, I think you're going to get more grip than a 5x4x3 with the tri-blade. The twin blade version, as with any other prop that the twin blade is the same as the tri-blade, just one less blade, the Avan does not have a twin blade that's the same as the tri-blade. It is a re-engineered prop, so the twin blade responds and works very, very differently than the tri-blade. This particular prop and another prop that is like this is the Cyclone prop, the new 50/50, where the twin blade is exactly the same blade as the tri-blade, just one less blade. The twin blade is generally going to be a little bit more efficient, and it's going to have a little bit less punch and a little bit less control and grip, which is to be expected because it has one less blade. So for endurance racing, you might try the twin blade. Also, if you're running really high kV motors, maybe the Hyperlight 2204, 2700, or 3000 kV motor, I would consider maybe trying the twin blade. It might work out really well because it's a really, really light twin blade. If people are still trying to run the twin blade on the 1407 3600 kV motor, the 5038 from Racecraft is the easiest twin blade to spin. I would say that this might be the next easiest twin blade to spin. It's not a good idea to try and run a 5-inch prop on that little motor. In fact, I don't even think it's a very good motor for 4-inch. I think it's okay, but it's really most suited to a 3-inch prop. But if you're still trying to make a 5-inch work on that tiny little motor, you might want to consider this twin blade. It could potentially work out for that motor. And that's it. I'm going to leave you with whatever's written on the screen now.